Okay, good morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Before we get started this morning, I see the top right-hand portion of my screen a birthday boy, Eric Schneider. Congratulations on your birthday, Eric. Which one is this? Should I ask? He's on mute. He probably wants to be on mute and doesn't want to tell us the actual number.
68.
Young 68. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. Colleen's with us this morning. She's going to be manning or womaning the chat box. So if you have any comments you want to pass on to the group or to me, she'll take a look at that. I am going to share my screen. So a portion of the meeting today, we're going to talk about multiple offers because obviously we have been getting a lot of multiple offers on our listings. You guys are involved with buyers that are getting involved with multiple offers with other agents. We're going to try to share some tips with you today on how to win when you have multiple offers out there. So before we get started, I know we have Dan and James on this morning with Homesale Mortgage. Dan, I think you're going to take it away for us.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have James cover this topic, and I'll cover something a little bit later in the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to pass along. I know Dan had said something this weekend about the new program through PHFA that is really a fantastic program for buyers that need a little bit of help with closing cost funds and down payment funds. So with the Keystone Home Loan that's already going on with PHFA, they have a new program that's called the K-Fit program. And what that is would be a forgivable second. So they can get up to 5% of the purchase price without a max, where the Advantage program, we were 4% with a max at 6,000. They can do 5% of the purchase price with no max, and it's a forgivable loan. So after 10 years, it's fully forgivable, and 10% gets knocked off of the amount that they get through the K-Fit program per year. So just like with the PHFA KHL program, we have the income limits for 1 to 2 person households. The income limits 80,000, was that 80,200, and 3+ is 92,800. So a lot of people can fit in this program. I know I have quite a few buyers that I'm kind of taking from that Advantage program and taking them into the K-Fit program. It's a little bit more money and more help. Now with this program, it's going to be max financing for each. So 3% down conventional, your 3.5% FHA, USDA is 100% financing. So that wouldn't change, but it's really that conventional, it has to be 3% down because it is a first time home buyer program. I think that's about it on that. So if you have any questions on that, we actually got notification today that we have some flyers on the PHFA K-Fit program. So if anybody's interested in some marketing materials with that, we can get you set up. Dan and I can co-brand the flyer for you. So please feel free to reach out. Pass it over to Dan.
I got to wait for Tom for what I have to talk about. Okay. So a little bit later. Thank you.
Yeah, James, if that's in PDF format or whatever format that's in, if you could forward it on to me and I could get it out to the office when I send out the office notes, or at least a sample of one anyway. Also with us this morning are Carrie and Sarah with Homesale Settlement. Ladies, you're on.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to March. Just wanted a friendly reminder to say thank you for all your continued business. As things get picked up and business starts really flowing, just a reminder, please get your agreements turned in right away so we can get them started, and also get your settlements booked so you can have the time and day that you want. Other than that, thanks for everything and bring it on.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm assuming Carrie was piggybacking with you on that one, correct?
I don't know.
Okay.
Carrie,
What was that comment, Tom?
I'm assuming that you were piggybacking on what she says and you're.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Okay. I didn't want to cut you short there. All right. Next is James White with Homesale Insurance. And I know he emailed me a couple days ago with a topic that he'd like to review. Go ahead, James.
Yep. I've been running into this. I talked with Donna Giovingo last week as well too. About 3 or 4 times I've run into this, and this is due to the market as well too, about when a buyer actually has the current owner still staying in the property that they used to own for occupancy. And what I always ask my buyer is, or ask the buyer of the house, is if they're moving into the home within 30 days. And in some situations, the past few weeks, I've had that where it's been an extended amount of time where the owner is moving in, or the situations vary because of the market right now. I've run into it multiple times the past few weeks. So what I always state to the buyer is I can write it correctly for them. And depending on the time frame, it may be better. It is in their best interest there if it is written as a tenant occupied location until they actually move in, because that's something where I wouldn't want the buyer to get into a position where a claim would be denied or something of that nature. I doubt it would happen, but it could potentially happen, is what I always say. And I always tell them too, is if it's something that isn't disclosed to the insurance company, they could potentially find that out, especially in Pennsylvania, because 99.9% of properties are inspected upon new business. So, and that's because if there's any hazards with the property, insurance companies in the state of Pennsylvania basically only have a 60-day window to decline coverage on that property. And when it's inspected, the inspectors typically knock at the door to announce their presence, and they usually have a short, quick interview with whoever answers that door. So if it's not the owner that answers that door, that could potentially be a problem if it's written as an owner-occupied home insurance policy. So that was basically all I had for today, and thanks for your continued support.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it.
Can I piggyback on that real quick, Tom?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Sure. So, and if there's a mortgage on the property, that gets a little challenging because the buyer then is going to essentially need 2 different insurance policies from the beginning, because they're going to need their standard owner-occupied policy as well from the closing date forward. So that's important to understand as well, that they will need both.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And I always tell them too that once it gets to the point where they're in the property, then I can rewrite it correctly for them being in the property.
Okay. All right. Not up on my screen, but she popped her head into my office. And if anybody has ever seen me do these Zoom calls in my office, which I close my door and hope nobody interrupts me, I have like 15 little Post-it notes all over my screen. One of them says, turn it over to Colleen. She has a word about the book club. So Colleen, take it away.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And just as a side note, anybody who hasn't seen Tom's setup for these meetings, you really ought to do yourself a favor and stop by and check it out. It's something to be seen. There's cords everywhere, microphones. He's high tech. So just want to jump on and remind you guys that The Ninja Selling Book Club / Mastermind is going to be on the 9th. I've heard from some of you that you're interested in participating. If you are, just reach out, send me an email, let me know. Depending on the amount of people, we may try and do it in person in the training room. And right now it looks like that could happen. If we get an influx of people who are interested, we may have to switch it to Zoom. But for now, the intention is to do it in person. So I hope to hear from all of you. Have a great week. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you, Colleen. While we're on the topic about pandemic protocols and all that, I think everybody's aware of this, but if you weren't, I was going to put it up here. This is revision number 4,367 since the beginning of the pandemic. There's travel protocols, as those of you that have traveled out of state or have been coming back on vacation know. When you come back here, you either have to have, or at least you did have to have a test that showed that you were negative, or you need to quarantine for 14 days. That is officially out the window. Now, having said that, this does not apply, I don't believe, to international travel. So if you're traveling internationally, I'll try to get some clarification, but I do believe those restrictions are still in place. Okay. So this year, and Colleen and I have talked about this a little bit, this year, as everybody might or might not be aware, we can't go to convention this year. Everything is being handled virtually, which I am going to talk about in a couple minutes. So we are going to hand out the office awards that we received from Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices here at North Pointe on Thursday, March 11th between 11 and 2. It's technically being deemed as a drive up because we're supposed to have social distancing still in place, but I'll have the awards here. I'll have little packets for each individual award winner and team leader. Colleen and I are still working on how we're going to be handling photos, so stay tuned for that. We have a little bit of time at this point in time. I know if teams want to get photos here in the office, we talked yesterday, it's going to have to be with masks on, but Colleen and I may have an ace up our sleeve, and we're going to work on that probably over the next couple of days. And I think we're going to be able to get teams and kind of piece everybody together. More on that later, but I wanted to have everybody get this on their calendar that received an award this past year. You have been notified that you did win the award, but I'll probably once again get out information to all the award winners and, you know, a little bit more about the date and time here. So wanted to make sure everybody had it on their calendar.
Hi everyone, we have received rave reviews from our first digital Ninja Selling presentation that was held on Monday, February 22nd. So I just wanted to take a moment to invite you to our second session, which will be held Monday, March 8th at 9:30, again via Zoom. And that topic is negotiate like a ninja with multiple offers. Obviously, in the climate that we are living in right now, both as a buyer's agent and a seller's agent, I know we could all use a few tips and tricks and strategies to help our buyers win more properties and to help our sellers get the maximum amount out of every offer. So I look forward to seeing you all on Monday, March 8th. Please register in the link in this email, and then you will receive confirmation and a link with handouts the morning of the presentation. Look forward to seeing you all there.
For those of you that don't know Brenda, she is Jen Rabram's counterpart in the York Adams County area. She was kind enough to put that video together for us. It was emailed out, I think it was March 1st, first day of March. You can go back to that email. It does have the link in there. You do need to pre-register for this. If you were at the first session, you know it was really, really good. There was a lot of good takeaways. It lasted a little over an hour. I would highly encourage you to attend this one. Once again, it's going to be called Negotiate Like a Ninja with Multiple Offers. It's kind of interesting Today, we're going to talk about multiple offers also to a great degree, and some of the things that you can do. But I purposely did not look at the notes in this Ninja Selling because I didn't want to steal their thunder. So we'll see how many of my ideas are the same as Ninja Selling ideas. But there will be, after you register, a confirmation email that will go out to you. In addition, if you know from the first session, you have a handout that's about 8 or 9 pages that you can fill in the blanks and keep good notes so that you can reference it heading into the future. Here are the next 2 dates after the one that's coming up. Thursday, March 25th is going to be maximizing referrals the Ninja Way. And on Monday, April 12th will be the 4th session, which is finding inventory and generating listings the Ninja Way. And obviously, we're all in this market together. Listings are so difficult to come by. So that April 12th session is one that you're not going to want to miss. I'm sure there's going to be great ideas there to try to help you find inventory in the challenging market that we're in.
You are unbelievable, unconventional, unbreakable, unshakable, undeniable. In a word, you are unstoppable. At Sales Convention 2021, we'll celebrate your strength, your achievements. We'll listen and learn, inspire and connect safely. Because you've been through so much. Turn challenges into opportunities. Make virtual a reality. Did the work and brought it out. And now, nothing can hold you back. Nothing can stand in the way of your success. No matter what happens in this room, you are forever a winner when you are unstoppable.
So before I give you the details on this, it was interesting. Because our office was fortunate enough to win one of the awards, I was asked to do a videotaped session that lasted all of about 5-10 seconds. And they made me get on a Zoom call with a whole bunch of people and clap or do whatever. And they looked at me after my portion was done and they said, "You're not enthusiastic enough." So they made me go over the top. So when you see my portion of the video, it was after like 3 or 4 takes, and it is so out of character for me. I don't want anybody to give me any grief for how I look and how I sound in this thing. It's not me. So I wanted to share with everybody, this year's convention is virtual and it is free to everybody in the franchise network. However, you do have to register for this. So you can either go to a previous email, or you can go to the BHHS Resource Center, go to the tab that's entitled Events and Training, go to Network Events, and click on the Sales Convention 2021. There you're going to get an overview and a kind of an agenda for the entire convention itself. There are some incredible speakers that are going to be there. Chris Stewart and Gino Blefari, who are both associated with Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices. Chris is the CEO. Gino is the chairman. The entertainment this year is John Legend, who needs no introduction. He is going to perform for the online auction for Sunshine Kids. So that's going to be a fabulous event. In addition, the keynote speaker this year is Vernice Flygirl Armour. Yes, that's a real name. She is, or was, the first African-American, I'm going to screw this up, first African-American fighter jet pilot who was also a Marine. She served in the Gulf, and she's since retired from that line of profession. She now does public speaking, has a couple books in the offing. You can go to YouTube and you can see some of the things that she's done on YouTube. Fabulous speaker, very, very inspirational. I'm sure anybody who sees this keynote address is going to be inspired by her and her story. So I wanted to give you a heads up there. In addition, there are over 100 panel discussions, seminars, and university sessions that are all going to be for free this year. You'll be able to participate in them. You'll have the pick of the litter. You'll be able to get in ahead of time, see all the agenda for all these different things, and select the ones that you want to take part in. I told you in my meeting preview previously, I think it was last meeting or maybe it was the one before, and give me a second here. There, we got rid of that. Last meeting or the one before, I had mentioned Remine Pro was something that was included with your Bright subscription. I had a couple people come up to me afterwards and say, I didn't even know it was there, number one, or what is Remine Pro? Or geez, you know, I knew it was there, but I never clicked on it. So I thought what I do today is give you a brief overview of what Remine is. Keep in mind the subscription, if you got this on the open market, is over $2,300 a year for Remine Pro. Because you are a member of Bright, it is included in your Bright MLS membership. You see some of the bullet points here. We're going to get a couple of screenshots here. They have incredible search options for business prospecting. You will just be amazed at some of the things that this program can do. It has all the information from our MLS, from Bright MLS in it, in addition to public records. So, and you'll see in a couple of minutes here, you can actually do a CMA in Remine, and not only is it pulling MLS records, but it is pulling things out of public records that would also apply, that would be very good for your CMA if it met all the parameters. You can send things out of Remine Pro so you can engage with clients. The predictive analytics on this is mind-boggling, and you'll see a screenshot in a minute or two of what I'm talking about here, where it is actually predicting, if you look at a map, who is going to be selling their home in the very near future. It is available, excuse me, on mobile and desktop. And another nice feature, you can drill down into certain areas and ask for certain things, and you can, one or two buttons clicked, and you can print mailing labels for mailers to go out to certain neighborhoods if you want to. So there's a lot of stuff that's within Remine Pro that is available to you.
Remine is a modern platform for agents to engage their clients all in one place. Your clients want the best, and Remine provides you with the tools to help your clients on their real estate journey. Not only will they get the best search and the fastest alerts, but it positions you with clear attribution throughout. You will get their engagement analytics so you know where they are in their journey. And you, the agent, get powerful tools. Send clients a free credit report with step 1. Search with the most advanced map-based search in the business. Not only does it combine MLS and public record data in one easy-to-use system, but you can layer map visualizations to really explore neighborhoods. Compare properties with CMA 360, the only one in the business that compares MLS and off-market transactions. Remine is your one platform to organize your real estate business and to engage with your clients. To get started, download the mobile app and with one click, upload your clients and give them all a free credit report, courtesy of you, the agent of the future.
So when you originally get into Remine in Bright, and by the way, it's not a logo that's on the main screen. You have to go to a tab. Gosh, that's terrible. I can't even think of what the tab name is. I'll get to it in a second here, though. There's a tab for market statistics. It is one of those links in market statistics. And when you get in there initially, it can be, I got to tell you, I'm pretty good about moving around websites. But in the very beginning, when I first got in there a couple of months ago, it was pretty daunting. And there was so much that was put on the main screen. I was trying to figure out where to go. I then discovered Remine Pro support, which is a tab that is in there that you can go to, and it gives you, as you see on this one, there must be 20, 30 videos in there, each about 2-3 minutes long, that take certain aspects of Remine, and it will share with you, what to do in this particular section of Remine to take advantage of some of the features it has. Also, Homesale Career Development has put together a broad overview 1-hour training on Remine. I know they touch on it in Accelerate classes, but this session was actually recorded. So you can go there and get some really good information on how to get started with Remine Pro. In addition, there are live and recorded webinars right in Remine. The two that are probably ones that you ought to start first would be Getting Started with Remine Pro, which is on the left there, and the one on the right is Find New Leads with Remine Pro. So what's included with this? Now, what you're going to see over the next couple of screens is I went in, and if you notice the address here, 111 Haskell Drive, it's actually in Lancaster, that's my childhood home. That's where my dad lives. So this is his neighborhood. And all I did was go down the list of these tiles that you see here on the left-hand side and clicked on them to see what was available either within his neighborhood or his specific home. This particular screenshot shows property values, and you can, you can drill in as far as you want or go back as far as you want. You can see how things, certain sections of neighborhoods or developments are more expensive than other ones. Home equity. They can predict the home equity that you have in your property based upon your mortgage data information. And by the way, we'll get to it in a second. They have unbelievable mortgage data information in here that you can determine it before you go out and talk with somebody, what kind of mortgage they have in place, how long they have to pay off on their mortgage, how much equity they have in their house. So this particular screen shows the home equity that these people have in this particular neighborhood. Ownership time. You see the really dark green lots. Those are people that have been there for 20+ years. More than likely, they're probably older individuals who have been there. Once again, if you're doing some type of farming in an area, or you want to hit a certain area and prospect, it'd be an unbelievable tool to use to see who's actually moved in there recently, who's been there for quite some time. This was the AI, which is they predict who is going to be selling in the near future. All the green lots are the ones that they feel are going to be selling in the near future based upon their demographics, and there's a whole bunch of things that go into this. And AI is artificial intelligence. Based upon the demographics, based upon the mortgage that they have or lack of, based upon where they are in life. It's pretty incredible. I did look at this when it first came out in Bright. I went into my personal neighborhood in Hummelstown and looked for all the green, and I was amazed. And that was probably, I'm trying to think of how long we've had Remine now, almost a year. During the course of that year, and I live in a development of about 230 homes, I think there were about 10 real dark green lots. Of those 10, 3 have actually sold in the interim. So it's pretty spot on. Absentee owners. I know a lot of people like to find absentee owners because, properties are either being rented or they're just wasting away, and it's a good way to potentially get listings. This one, if you look at I'll call it the light tan and the orange, the light tan is these are absentee owners that are in state, and the orange ones are absentee owners that are out of state. And by the way, you can't see it here, but if you click on each one of these little blue dots, a little box pops up and tells you a little bit about the property. And if you click on it again, a whole screen pops up that tells you about that specific property, in addition to pictures, all kinds of different things that are available. Flood zone risk. And you see my dad's home, pretty good, low to medium. I think the only time it ever flooded was during Hurricane Agnes when I was a little boy. But you can actually drill down in individual lots, and you can see where the flood lines go if it is in a flood zone. Pretty interesting. Mortgage rates. And I see Dan and James. This would be a great prospecting tool for our mortgage guys. The properties that are, I'll call it the really, really dark purple, they have interest rates on their mortgage that are over 6% at this point in time. These are prime candidates to remortgage, refinance their properties.
I use this quite a bit, Tom. So
what's that?
I said I use it quite a bit. I'm familiar with it.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you can also do a CMA in Remine Pro. The CMA program in there is called CMA 360. Very, very easy to use. Excuse me. It brands everything to you. It brands everything to the franchise that you're with. You see here, all the colors are that of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices. So it's a really nice report that's put together for you in a very, very short period of time. So I saw a study this past week. Now that we've been about a year into this pandemic, and it came from a company that's a kind of a relocation company, but also has leads that they disperse to real estate agents. And they ask millennial buyers, would you buy a house sight unseen? Now, for obviously those of us that have lived through this pandemic over the last year or so, this isn't as unusual as we think. A lot of people, especially during the real shutdown when we couldn't get into properties, a lot of people were buying things sight unseen. But you can even see today, because of how many buyers are interested in properties, there are some people, especially during coming soon, that are submitting offers sight unseen. And a lot of people I've heard, not only in this office, but out in the general co-op population say, I can't wait till we get back to the old days when we don't have any of this more, sight unseen offers, and we can actually get back to showing properties and things like that. I thought this study was fascinating. Once again, this is a 2021 millennial home buyer report, and they asked some questions of millennials. Would you buy a house sight unseen? 26% of the people said, yep, I'd buy it with a live virtual tour. A live virtual tour is where you as an agent or the listing agent walks through the house with a mobile device and kind of walks through the home, shares with them, but you can actually interact with the potential buyer. They can say, hey, can you look behind that curtain, or can I see what's behind that door there? So about a quarter of the people, quarter of millennials, would actually buy a house sight unseen with a virtual tour. I thought this was interesting. A virtual tour, not a live virtual tour, a virtual tour where it's just recorded by an agent ahead of time and plopped out there. 31% of millennials would actually buy a house sight unseen. And this one blew me away. Photos alone, almost 50% of millennials will buy a house sight unseen. And we're saying to ourselves, and obviously I was raised in a different era where you touch and feel and smell and all that kind of stuff. Millennials are a different breed. They are actually, they're not only actually buying homes sight unseen, they have a certain level of comfort with it. This is the new normal. So as we come out of this pandemic, knock on wood, I don't have my knock on wood here. as we come out of this pandemic, don't be alarmed if you are dealing with a millennial buyer or even a Gen Z buyer, and they're looking at all this stuff online and saying, I'd like to submit an offer. And a lot of times an agent would say, well, don't you want to go see the property? A lot of these people are comfortable just seeing the property in photos and virtual tours. I thought this was fascinating. I thought I'd share it with everybody because it is a total mindset change. And I think it was accelerated due to the pandemic and what we've just gone through over the last 12 months or so. So winning the multiple offer game for your buyer client. Now, some of you may have actually seen a video that I put out that was, I don't know, 6 or 7 minutes long. It's on my YouTube channel where I do talk about this, but I'm going to get into depth here a little bit more about these multiple offer situations. And I'm hearing it almost every day from you as buyer agents and also from listing agents who are coming to me saying, oh my God, I already got 20 offers and it's day number 2. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I've never had to present 20 offers before. So I'm going to give you some tips. Some of these things might be fairly evident to you. Hopefully, if you pick up 1 or 2 things along the way here, it'll help you with a future agreement of sale. My video that I put out contained 10 tips. I'm going to throw 2 extra in at the end here. So the first one is set the table with your buyer. Now, what do I mean by that? Educate them on the state of the market. You and I, we have been experiencing this market now for quite some time. We know that it's fast-paced. We know what's going on. We know that if a buyer wants a property, they have to move quickly on it. Buyers that are just entering the market, they don't know this. We have to sit down with them at the very beginning and say, listen, let me share some statistics with you. Let me share how fast things are moving, days on the market. Let me share with you the original list price to sale price, which by the way, now is over 100%. So we're getting, on average, we're getting higher sale prices than list prices across the board as an average. That's the first time I've ever seen that. So share these with your buyer clients to get them in the proper mindset so that they are ready to proceed and they're moving quickly and they understand the market that they're in. The problem that I see is if we don't set the table with the buyer up front, they get involved with their first 1 or 2 agreements, and we'll talk about this in a couple minutes. They get involved with their first 1 or 2 agreements and they lose out. And you know who they blame? They blame you as the agent who's not doing a good job for them because they're going in at quote unquote full price or really close to full price, expecting to get the property. And when they don't get it, they're like, what's going on? It must be my agent. Take the time to sit down with them up front. Number 2, I call this speed kills. Speed kills. First thing under here, draw up the agreement of sale now. The day that you meet your buyer client, get them to sign a buyer agency contract, draw up all of the documentation right now in .loop or however you do it, so that when you do find a property that you're ready to submit an offer on, all you're doing is filling in a couple of blanks. Once again, a couple minutes may be the difference between you getting the property and not getting the property. So take the time to draw up all the agreements of sale and associated documents now. Cover questions having to do with the paperwork now. Take the time up front, go through the documents with them and say, hey, let me go through here and paraphrase this line by line. This is what this means. This is what this means. That way, when it's time to sign this, we don't have to spend an hour or 2 going through all the documentation and having me explain everything to you. If I've already done it, you should be comfortable with it. Oh, by the way, one of the things I always told new people getting into the business, I always gave my clients, my buyer clients and my seller clients, a blank copy of the agreement of sale on day 1. And I told them all the time, read through this. I'm going to go through it, at a later point in time, but read through it now. And if you have any questions as we're looking at homes or as we're meeting, you can fire those questions at me and we can take care of it. So by the time that you're signing the agreement of sale, everything's taken care of. And finally, get them comfortable, once again now, with electronic signatures. If they've never done this before, or it's been a long time since they've done it, do a couple sample documents to them that don't really mean anything, so that you don't run into glitches at the 11th hour when you're trying to get the real thing signed and the buyer client says, well, I don't know how to do this. Take the time right now and do a couple of sample documents, send it to them and say, here's how you initial, here's how you sign, this is how it comes back to me. That way you're not wasting time when time is of value further down the line. Get pre-approved versus pre-qualified. So take the time up front with a lender. It is going to pay off in the long run when you're going through the offer process. And check with the lender on the differences. Now, I did talk to Dan ahead of time about this, and I'm going to turn it over to him. I know he has a couple of key points having to do with this. There is a difference here. Understand what it is and understand what lenders do. Dan, do you want to chime in on this?
Sure. Yeah, there is an absolute difference. So basically, pre-qualification is very vague. It's generally based on unconfirmed information. So, if a client would come to me and say, I make $100,000 a year, I have about $25,000 in assets, what do you think I could buy? And I could essentially, just based on that very vague information, do what's called a pre-qualification and say, well, based on that income and those amount of assets, you'd probably be good to go to buy a $350,000 house. So it's unconfirmed, and it's really based on a large number of assumptions. And believe it or not, there's still some lenders out there that do that and issue just a pre-qualification. I think I shouldn't say a lot, but online lenders are very notable for that in many cases, where the borrower goes online, they punch a couple buttons, and they spit out a letter that says they're pre-qualified for whatever it may be. The difference with a pre-approval is much more in depth, where things such as credit are definitely part of that. So, as long as I've been in this industry, 17 years, a pre-approval involves doing a tri-merge credit report, because when we are looking at a borrower's qualifying score, we need all three scores. It's always the middle score that's used. So you can't even do it with just one credit report. You need all three bureaus to determine that. Secondly, it's confirmation of income. Again, this is going to vary a little bit from borrower to borrower, but we're having that conversation. And if I can't specifically determine what their income is, we're getting documentation before issuing a pre-approval. And then, of course, the assets, confirmation of assets. If they're saying, well, I have $50,000 to work with, where are those funds coming from? Is it your own funds? Are you getting gift funds? Where is that coming from? So we're nailing that down with specifics. And probably one of the most important parts of a pre-approval, in my opinion, is we are running all of that through automated underwriting. So if they're doing conventional financing, there's automated underwriting tools where they're evaluating all of that information to determine if it is acceptable. The same goes for both FHA and VA, where it's being run through an automated underwriting service to determine if that is an approvable loan. And then, of course, with the USDA, there's a separate underwriting system that's used as well. So before issuing a pre-approval, all of those things really should be in place. And I think that's, a tremendous difference between the pre-approval versus the pre-qualification. The pre-approval is definitely much stronger.
Right. And one final point on this. Let's assume you as an agent are getting a pre-approval, which is the ideal circumstance. You are getting a pre-approval and you're submitting that pre-approval letter with your agreement to the listing agent. Do not automatically assume that the listing agent knows what the difference is between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification letter. I would get on the phone and say, hey, I just sent you this. My client is pre-approved. I've already run them through Dan Rank at Homesale Mortgage. He's done all this stuff. The only thing that we're waiting on right now is, maybe an appraisal or a couple of other things. But this really trumps a pre-qualification letter. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate your help.
You're welcome.
Cash is king. some people don't want to go down this road, and they purposely don't talk with their clients up front about this. But I am constantly saying to people in this market, I would have a conversation with your client right now about, do you have the potential to have access to cash to make this a cash agreement versus a mortgage agreement? I think you ought to have this discussion right up front. Now, obviously, that's not the most advantageous thing for a buyer, because chances are the buyer is going to have to either go to mom and dad or somebody else and tap into that and then get a mortgage after the fact. But if you don't have that conversation now and they lose a number of agreements, I call this getting punched in the nose. You're getting punched in the nose a half a dozen, 10 times. And now the buyer's coming back to you as their agent saying, how come I can't get a property under agreement? If you have their conversation up front about, hey, do you have access to cash with a relative or somebody else? This could go a long way and make the difference between you getting the property and not getting the property. Put your best foot forward. The days of, hey, I'd like to test the water, or I'd like to go in at $5,000 under list price, provided it's listed properly, $5,000 under list price, to leave myself some wiggle room or some negotiating room, those days are gone. Stop trying to get the last $1,000 from the seller, because more than likely you are going to be disappointed. The sentence that I have used over the years when people have come to me and said, as buyers, saying, hey, I'd like to try this first. I'll always come up, but I'd like to try this first. And I always say to those people, will you be disappointed if you never get a chance to make a counteroffer? And if the person says, well, yeah, this is just a starting point, I'm saying, especially in this market, put your best foot forward now. Number 6 is your EMD, your earnest money deposit, making a statement. Now, your EMD could be making a statement one way or the other. If it's weak, that's speaking volumes to the seller. In the environment that we're finding ourselves right now, if you're putting in a weak EMD, chances are it's being bypassed, because other people are putting in the EMDs that are fairly substantial. The other thing that I would, and once again, this is something that comes from being involved with the business. You and I both know what happens to an earnest money deposit. It goes to a listing agency 95% of the time. It's held in a secure account, and it will be ultimately refunded to the buyer if, in fact, inspections fall apart or they can't get a mortgage. Don't assume that the buyer knows that. Some buyers over the years that I've dealt with in dealing with agents and getting involved with the middle of transactions are saying, well, I don't want to lose my deposit if I can't get a mortgage. When I hear that, I'm saying we need to back up, explain what the EMD is, what it's for, and under what circumstances it's going to come back to the buyer. That could be a reason why they don't want to up their EMD, is because they don't understand it. So educate them. Number 7, keep your agreements as clean as possible. Don't junk them up with all kinds of fluff, as I call it, with personal I want the chandelier. Can you leave the lawnmower? That looks pretty nice in the backyard. Keep that stuff off of agreements of sale at this point in time. It's only one reason, or it's another reason for the seller to look at that and say, I don't want to deal with this person. And a word of caution about eliminating a home inspection. We've all had this. I've heard it dozens of times since, for a couple of months now. People lose out. People lose out on homes, and they get desperate, and they say to you as the real estate agent, well, what do you think? Should we take this home inspection off of here? Is that something that'll be in my favor? Be very, very careful how you answer that question. Don't you as the agent suggest that they take the home inspection away. It's always a good idea. But over time, you're going to see people are losing out on agreements because, Another agreement doesn't have it in. If they choose not to go in that direction, first of all, explain what the downside is. But one thing you may want to consider is consider a home warranty. Now, it's not the same as a home inspection, as we all know, but a home warranty covers major components from catastrophic loss. So keep your agreements as clean as possible. Be careful on some of this stuff, because we don't want to have liability come back on us if we're saying, get rid of that home inspection. Number 8, know the seller's hot buttons. In the market that we're in, I would always, if you can, and there's time, contact the listing agent and ask the question, what's the seller's ideal time frame for moving? What do they need? What are they looking for aside from price? What are they looking for as far as terms are concerned? I think at times you'll be amazed at what sellers will say to listing agents, and listing agents will convey on to buyer agents. You know, if you go in with an agreement of sale with a 60-day settlement and the seller is thinking, I really need 90 days here, and you as the buyer agent would have put 90 days into the agreement if you knew about it, shame on you. Find out about this stuff ahead of time. A little give up front could go a long way on the back end. Number 9 is consider a backup offer. For those of you that have never experienced the backup offer, it's nothing more than, hey, you lost out on an agreement of sale. Maybe you were one of, in this particular picture, there's one of 6 people there. 5 people didn't get the agreement. If you're one of the 5 people and your buyer is willing to hold on for a little bit, see if the buyer is willing to submit a backup offer that would be contingent upon the first offer falling apart. If the buyer is willing to wait a little bit, usually that first agreement, you're going to know whether that's going to go in 30 plus or minus days. If the buyer's willing to wait that long, might be a good viable option. It's a win-win for the seller and the listing agent if the backup offer is in place. Here's what I've heard. A lot of agents, they have a listing, they're into it 3 weeks, 4 weeks, falls apart for whatever reason. And now the listing agent comes to me and says, I got to put this back in the market again. We had 20 agreements the first time. Had 20 agreements. Now I got to go through this whole thing again. My seller, he's tired of getting out of his house every time the home is shown. If there's already a backup offer in place, it just goes to the backup offer and everything proceeds. So, by the way, you'll be a hero with your buyer if they get the property on the second go round. And number 10 is be nice. This is really, really technical, this be nice thing. But I think we all know agents that we would love to work with, and we all know agents we don't want to work with. And sometimes it comes down to 2 or 3 agreements at the end of the day, and the listing agent's looking at these agreements and saying, oh, they're all about the same. Oh my God, Colleen Davis, she's a mess. We don't want to deal with her. So they discount Colleen's because she's not a nice person. Sometimes it comes down, sorry, Colleen, I'm just using your because you're on my screen here. Sometimes it comes down to that. So they're under a lot of stress too, just like you as a buyer agent. I mean, when a listing agent gets 20 different agreements of sale, they're saying, oh my God, how am I going to present all these? They're getting all these phone calls from the buyer's agent saying, when are you going to present? How does my agreement look? They're badgering the listing agent. If you're just nice from day one when you're interacting here, sometimes the simplest things have the biggest impact. And it's not really what you say, it's how you say it that matters. So just be nice. And 2 bonus picks here. This one we actually had as a sales meeting about 2-3 meetings ago. If you're tired of this runaround with your buyer and losing out on, consider new construction. The competition is not as fierce. You have the opportunity to have your buyer catch their breath because they're not having to rush around getting involved with submitting an agreement at 11 o'clock at night to beat out the 10 other buyers that saw the house that day. And number 12, have your buyer sell their existing home first. And you say, nah, they don't want to do that. So you're going to put in a house for sale contingency in the agreement of sale. Good luck with that in this environment that we find ourselves right now. Now, I know it's not ideal. However, if they sell their house first, it eliminates that contingency in the agreement of sale. It's one less thing to keep it as clean as possible. And also the buyer now has cash in their hand. So whether you use the first 10, the last 2, a combination, try to increase your chances for your buyer by taking a look at how you're structuring the agreement of sale and what you're putting with it, what you're eliminating, and make sure you're positioning your buyer in the best light possible. Hopefully, when you use a couple of these things, it'll go a long way for you. Now, before we get to the end, I have one more thing. I think there was an email that was sent, I know there was an email that was sent out about 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago, introducing Kristen Carasello. She was the regional title manager in the Adams and York County areas. She's now taking on, under her umbrella, the Lancaster County area. I got to tell you guys, I've worked with Kristen in the past, actually in Harrisburg, for a number of years. She does a phenomenal job with title. I know she's been doing an incredible job over in Adams and York County. She's now here, also in Lancaster County, so you may see her face around the office. She's actually right upstairs here in the North Pointe office, right next to James Ream. So you can pop your head in and say hi. I know when the original email went out, there was a number of agents that have actually worked with Kristen here in the Lancaster market in the past, and wanted to say hi to Kristen and kind of welcome her back here. So I'd like to turn the meeting over to Kristen. She has a couple things to say. Go ahead, Kristen.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be back in the Lancaster region, helping Dawn and the team continue the success. I'm looking at the wrong camera. My bad. I'm sorry. Shouldn't surprise anybody that knows me.
With Zoom is you look at the wrong camera.
Yeah, sorry. With that being said, I just have a couple announcements here. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that we're going to have Carrie come back over to the Centerville office to help Dawn do settlements. I know last year Dawn got a little bogged down with settlements, so Carrie's going to come back over where she originally started. She's going to help with Coreyville and Centerville. We're going to get Sarah Processor there, and then we have Sherry Fisher, who's a settlement agent out of Ephrata. She's going to be helping at North Pointe as well. And I will be there too. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to any of us. And with that being said, I also want to let you know, just because Carrie's coming here and Sherry will be there, you have the luxury of picking whatever closer you feel comfortable with. And that's fine. They will do the settlements where you need them to be, if you will. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that's happening, and it's a good move for everybody. So, I don't know. That's all I got.
And I know because I do say, I don't know, there's 35, 40 people on the call, maybe more than that. I do see Carrie on my screen. While she's on our screen here, you're going to notice probably over the next couple of days, she's going to physically move some of her things over to Centerville. Since I've been here at the North Pointe office, Carrie has just done a marvelous job here. So on behalf of me and everybody else here, Carrie, I want to thank you. And I know you're going to be around because, as Kristen just indicated here on the phone, or excuse me, on this call, we want you as agents here at North Pointe to have the luxury of, whoever you would like to have settle your property. It's just that she's going to be in a physical different location. So you won't see her around here through the window that I pop my head in the door every single morning and say, good morning. She'll be over at Centerville Road, but I'm sure you're going to see her around here. Carrie, I don't want to put you on the spot. You want to just wave to everybody and say,
Hi, guys. I'm going to miss you, but I'm not going anywhere. I'll be in and out of this office a lot, I'm sure.
okay. Thanks. Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, Carrie.
Sure.
And ending up today, our little quote, all wealth comes from adding value, from producing more, better, cheaper, faster, and easier than someone else. I shared with you today a program called Remine. Remine can give you some incredible data insights into market. I would get familiar with this. I've also talked with you today about how to set your buyer apart in these multiple offer situations. The better we become at our jobs, the more we will earn money, because people will continue to keep coming back to us because of the job that we've done for them, not only in the past, but heading into the future. So those words, by the way, come from Brian Tracy. Brian, years ago when I first started in the real estate business, Brian was all over. He was a very influential, motivational speaker. He's written a number of books. I would highly encourage you, if you run across him in a book or in a video, take the time and listen to Brian. Really sharp guy. Everybody have a great day, and I will see you in 2 weeks. There'll be some information coming out once again on our awards drive up. Once Colleen and I figure out how we're going to piece this whole thing together, because we're learning this. We don't have a playbook to go by. We're going to write the playbook on this one. So have a great day, everybody.